Fishing, camping, hiking. I'll bet a lot of us are planning outdoor activities this weekend, and that means keeping an eye out for ticks. The insects are now common in our region, and the Thunder Bay District is considered a risk area for Lyme disease. The local tick population is also monitored, and that surveillance has begun for the season. To find out what's been observed so far, I'm joined by Ken Deacon. He's the program coordinator for surveillance of vector-borne diseases at the Thunder Bay District Health Unit. Ken, good morning.
Good morning, Mary Jane.
So can you remind us how the health unit monitors the tick population?
Unfortunately, we hire a poor student who has to go out and do all of that hiking you were talking about. They drag a piece of equipment behind them that the ticks will cling to, stop, check to see if they've got any ticks. And that's the active surveillance part of the tick monitoring. The other part of tick monitoring is people are allowed to come in to the health unit, drop off any ticks that they found on them or their dogs. We identify them, but that's all we're allowed to do now because COVID hit and we can't send the ticks off for analysis to see if they have or been carrying Lyme disease.
So when was the first tick submitted this year?
The first tick submitted this year was the beginning of May. I'm just going to check to see the exact date, and that would have been. Sorry, I'm doing my computer thing. That would have been the 9th of May. Actually, was the first tick, which is really very late. Normally, we have ticks in. Sometimes there are ticks that are brought in through travel-related, and we've had them in as early as January, but that's not Thunder Bay. But we often get ticks in March, even April, and that's because the ticks can be active. If it's a nice warm day, then the blacklegged ticks are active down to 4 degrees, so there can be snow on the ground, and you can still have ticks being a problem.
Oh, wow. So since that first one on May 9th, how does the number of ticks collected so far compare to past springs?
Well, as we all know, winter sure hung on this year, and so it's quite late for previous years. Actually, the ticks that have been brought into the health unit are lower than previous years. Right now, we've only had 11 blacklegged ticks submitted versus 27 last year by this time. And we also, of course, people are submitting their wood ticks, and so we've had 150 wood ticks submitted versus 433 wood ticks last year.
Okay.
So either, I suspect the next question would be, so what's happened? Either it's just a slow spring and things will pick up, or, and this is a probability as well, because of the low temperatures last winter, there's going to be a major winter kill, and so the number of ticks will be fewer this year than last year and in previous years. But we've had situations in the past where there's been an extreme weather event, extremely cold winter, and then the tick population can drop by as much as 50%. But hey, they're pretty resilient, and they just build right back up again.
Well, I'm hoping the winter did them in. So I know
Not all of them.
I know you spend a lot of time outdoors yourself. Have you encountered any ticks this spring?
Yes, actually, and quite remarkably, we have a cabin up near the University Woodlot, excuse me, on Beaver Kit Lake Road. And that's the first time, just a week ago, we found one. It was a wood tick, mind you, but we found one up there. So even though the numbers are down, it still means that the range is expanding. So we expect to see black-legged ticks. They've been collected from Burke's Road and out that way towards in Lappy. So we expect to see them up there.
Now, black-legged ticks are the ones that carry Lyme disease. How concerned should people be about Lyme disease if they are bitten by a black-legged tick?
They should be extremely concerned because it's such a a difficult to diagnose disease. If you're really lucky, you get a bullseye rash, but not everybody gets one. And if you do acquire Lyme disease, then you can be free of Lyme by giving up antibiotics really early on, but they become less effective if you have Lyme disease that passes, say, a couple of months, and then it's very difficult to get rid of. There can be some long-term side effects from it. And people are well advised to be very vigilant. And the other thing that I really want to strongly emphasize is that what we see right now are the adult ticks. But the black-legged tick, juvenile forms are present throughout the entire summer, and there's a smaller stage that's like sesame seed size. It can transmit Lyme disease, and that's the one that would be present during July and August and into September, and those are the ones that you really, really, don't think that they're going to be, the size of a grain of rice or even larger. It's these little guys that you have to watch for.
Oh, I did not know about that.
No. Most people go, oh, well, I can't see them anymore, so they aren't there. But they certainly are there. And I've read some estimates where they think that the majority of Lyme disease is transmitted by the small sesame seed size stage.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, unfortunately. And they're really tough to see. So, it's not just looking for a glob on your skin, it's looking for a speck on your skin.
A speck. Okay.
Yeah. And so with a hairy dog, that's going to be really a tough one to call. There are some really interesting systemic poisons, which I would never really recommend for anything other than Lyme disease, but it kills the ticks. And the dogs are short-lived. 10, 12 years, maybe a little longer. There is nothing like that for humans because that would be a total disaster for us, I think. We just live too long.
So what do you want people to know then about staying safe?
Well, you can do several things, of course, and one is that you wear long trousers if you're going into an area that has ticks, and those areas are primarily shrubby or grassy areas. Wear light-colored clothing so you can see anything crawling on you. And do a thorough tick check. If you want, you can actually apply an insect repellent to where the seams are. You don't have to slather it all over yourself, just on your clothes where the seams are, and that'll keep the ticks off as well. Oh,
repellent works for ticks?
Yes, it does.
Okay, I always think of repellent just for mosquitoes and black flies.
That's right, yeah. It keeps all of the bloodsuckers away. Okay. Well, I don't know about the deer flies, right? They don't seem to care.
Deer flies just seem tough.
They just do you, and then you're, yeah.
Now, speaking of black flies and mosquitoes, any observations on those this year?
Yeah, although we did have a cold winter, these guys are really well adapted to survive the cold. So that's not going to have any effect on them. The black flies are actually alive and in the running water under the ice. That's when they complete most of their development during the winter time. That's why they're so numerous right now. And I don't think the black flies should be any more abundant this year because of the snow, because the water would have been running all winter anyway. Mosquitoes, on the other hand, there's a couple of really sneaky species. There's one called Aedes vexans, and it's vexatious. So the female lays the eggs and spots depressions in the soil in the summertime, and the eggs are set up to hatch when there's water in those pools. So there was a lot of water, and some of these pools may not have been wet last year, so there should have been more eggs hatching, and we'll probably have more mosquitoes, therefore.
All right. And I was seeing something, it looked almost like small black flies this year. They didn't seem big enough to be a black fly, but weren't as small as an oseum. And I don't know is there such thing as baby black flies?
Oh, sorry. No, there are no baby black flies. And of course, that's the spectrum. You go from a black fly to a no-see-um. There are other insects. Were you at all? Did they go after you? I guess is the big question. Was it a bloodsucker?
Yeah.
Because there are other things. Midges, for example, can be smaller, but they don't look very much like the black fly.
Okay.
They look more like a mosquito than midges.
Okay, maybe it's just all in my head. I picture them to be so big.
Yeah, there's it would be unusual, but you might have fruit flies out at this time as well.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Okay.
I will be having to protect my family for sure.
I'm afraid so, because it is tick season, and it will be tick season. Oh, the last thing I want to say is that, and then in September, those black-legged ticks that were so tiny, they start molting into the adult stage. So there's a second, major season of adults starting in September, running right through until freeze up.
Okay, so we got to protect ourselves through the fall as well.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Mary Jane.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye now.
Ken Deacon is the program coordinator for surveillance of vector-borne diseases at the Thunder Bay District Health Unit. Now, 26 minutes after 7 o'clock.